Let's begin by davening that the zchut of our learning should help to bring back the hostages and protect our soldiers and Am Yisrael and all of the innocents and bring a speedy end to all of our conflicts.
Amen.
And Tov. So this is what we got up to last time. We're talking about what's the source for saying Gilui Arayot and Shfichut Damim are Isurim where Yehareg V'al Yavor. You have to let yourself be put to death rather than transgress. So we started off with this Braita, Tanya Rebbe Omer. So let me make this bigger. That's pretty big. And let's read this again. So go ahead and read Rebbe Omer.
Rebbe Omer, Asher Yakum Ish Arehu, Urchatsu Nefesh Ken Hadavar Hazeh. Kima Inyan Lamanu Merotzeach, Lena'arah Merasa, Ele Harazeh Ba Lilamed Fanimsa Lamad. Man Aram Ursa Niten Lahatzila Binafsho, Af Rotzeach Kule Niten Lahatzil Nafsho, Ma Rotzeach Yeharag Va'al Ya'avor, Af Na'ara Hamorsa Yeharag Va'al Ya'avor.
Okay. So can you tell us what this means?
Okay, so when a man rises against his fellow man and murders his soul, Canada Devars as such as this thing, and
So where's
yeah,
what's the context of this pasuk?
it was, if I remember correctly, it was like it's discussing the issue of raping a woman, the various descriptions, various types of assaulting her, whether she was acquiesced or not. And then in the end, the Torah is comparing that act to an act of murder.
Yeah, okay, basically yes. Let's take a look at that again, just to make sure that we're on the same page. One sec. So specifically, this pasuk comes in the context of the Na'ara Hamurasa. It's specifically about a betrothed woman. And let me share the screen. Okay, do you see the psukim?
Yep.
Okay, right. So the Torah says about an araham murasa, ki an arabetula murasa la'ish. So specifically, it's talking about a virgin woman who's betrothed to a man. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Just a second. And all right, so like you said, so it brings two cases. One is if he finds her in the city and has relations with her there, then they're both chayav mita. And why? So why is the nara chayavet mita? Because she didn't cry out, and the man is chayav for having had relations with Eshet Reyehu, the wife of his neighbor. Uviarta harami kirbecha. You should destroy the evil from within you. But if he found her in the field and took hold of her and had relations with her, then the man is put to death. Only only the man is put to death. V'lenara lo ta'aseh davar. Don't do anything to the nara. Ein lenara chet mavet. So in that case, she's not liable to capital punishment. Why? Ki kasher yakum ish al re'ehu ritzacho nefesh kain hadavar hazeh. So just like a man will rise up to his neighbor and murder him, so is this thing. So Rashi here explained, L'fi pshuto zehu mashmo. According to the simple meaning, this is what it means. Ki anusahi, because she was forced. Uvechazaka amad aleha. He stood up to her with force, with strength. And compared to what Kadam Haomed al Chavero Hargo, the same way a man might stand up to his friend, to such a friend, but to murder him. So the comparison that the Torah is making is that the Nara Murasa is a victim in the same way that a murder victim could be a victim. And so in the context of the pasuk, what it's telling me is simply that she in this case is going to be considered entirely blameless. And just like you wouldn't blame somebody who was murdered for being murdered, so also you can't blame this woman for being raped. Um, Rabbeinu Darshu Rashi says Hareza Bal Lamed, right? So that's going back to our Gemara. So our Gemara says, oh, here's Paul. Just a second. Paul Schaefer the second. Paul,
כן,
okay, you
שלום.
hear us? Hi.
Yes. Did you hear
Yeah,
me?
yes, yes, I hear you. Michael,
עשיתי
can you
לך
hear Paul?
בלאגן.
Hi, Paul. I hear him okay.
No, because
I opened the Zoom on my phone, but then I
uh-huh,
was really near to my house, and I thought it's better uh, to
to
hurry and
connect.
to get to the computer.
Yeah,
So, okay.
it is better. No, I told Michael I saw that you had connected at like around 7, but I hadn't opened the Zoom meeting yet. But now you're here, and it's fine. We're doing a quick review. I want to get up to where we were last time, but just by reviewing a little bit of what we did before. So we have this Breita. So the Breita is here. Presumably, we want to find out what's the source for Gilui Arayot and Shvichut Damim that the din is Yareg Vial Yavor. So we have this Breita from Rebbe, and Rebbe says, let's look at the pasuk that's brought in the context of Nara Murasa, and that's this pasuk that we were just reading. Ki kasher yakum ish al re'eh u'retzachon nefesh ken hadavar hazeh. So Rashi on Chumash says that in the context, the pshat of that pasuk is that just like a person who is the victim of a murderer is blameless, so also the Naraha Murasa Basadeh is in the same position. She's a blameless victim, so she's not chayevet mita. And but Rebbe says, right? So Michael read this already, so I'll just read it again. So what's the matter that we learned from the murderer in regards to the Nara Murasa? Ella, in other words, on the face of it, uh, I don't necessarily, we didn't say this last time, but I think part of the question here is the Torah didn't have to bring the example of the Rotseach for us to understand that the Nara Murasa is a blameless victim. If we hadn't compared her to a Rotseach, the Torah still says that right, ein chet maved, right? She's not chayevet. So what does it add for me to compare her to the Rotseach? So Ela hareze bal lamed v'nimtza lamed. So it came to teach us. In other words, it came to teach it. The Rotseach, the case of the Rotseach, comes to teach us about the Nara Murasa, but nimtza lamed. It comes to come back and teach something from the Nara Murasa about the Rotseach. It enlightens us about the Rotseach. And what is that? Ma Nara Murasa nitan lahatzila binafsho. Just like the betrothed woman is given over to be saved with his life, with the life of the attacker, the life of the rapist, af rotzeach nitan lahatzilo benafsho. So it will also be true now that the rotzeach can be saved, that the murder victim, right, the potential murder victim, can be saved with the life of the potential murderer. Ma rotzeach yehareg ba'al yavor. And so what is that? What's the implication then? Just like the murderer shall be given over to be put to death rather than transgress, that is, he can be killed if we see he's about to murder someone. So he's Yahareg to prevent him from transgressing. Af nara hamurasa yehareg ve'al yavor. So it will also be true for the nara murasa that the attacker can be put to death rather than transgress. So we come out learning about both Gilui Arayot and Shvichut Damim. That in the case of both of them, that the potential attacker is Yehareg V'al Yavor, can be put to death rather than transgress.
Well,
Yes.
there's something I don't get here.
Okay.
Okay. Yehareg Bal Yavor means that a person, maybe myself, yes, a person should prefer to die and not do a transgression. Not shouldn't transgress something like Avodah Zarah. So okay, but here it goes the other way around. It says, we are allowed to kill him so that he wouldn't do a transgression. This is not the original, this is not what Yareg and Al Yavor means.
Well, okay. So you're beginning. How do you know that Yehareg Ve'al Yavor means what you say?
No, that's the way.
That's the way
That's
you
the
learned
way
it.
we understand it usually. There are three things which are Yareg and the Alia, the Bal Yavor, I think it's written, and I don't know the Al Yavor.
Al
Yes,
Yavor.
Al
Either
Yavor
way.
said
Either
that.
way.
Yes, okay. That's what we understand. There are
okay.
three transgressions we are not allowed to do, and it's even if it costs our life. That's the usual sense.
Okay. That's okay. So that's how you understand it. So, like I say, so this is. So what? So let's answer your question by saying this. What is the Gemara telling us? That a person a person who is about to commit one of these transgressions, specifically either ritzicha or ones of an ara murasa, either one of those people is nitan leareg. They're given over to being killed, meaning that in order to stop them, an observer is allowed to kill them. So let's consider what that means to begin with, right? So this din is bichlal very exceptional. Why do I say very exceptional? Because normally in all the other chata'im that we have in the Torah, you don't get a punishment until you do the sin. And here the Torah is saying that in order to prevent the sin, you're allowed to administer this punishment. And the punishment is an extrajudicial punishment, meaning you don't grab him and bring him to court. You kill him because he's about to do the deed right then. So that the din is that at that moment, at the moment that we can determine that the Rotseach is about to murder, or the Ones is about to rape, at the moment that they're in that, and I mentioned this last time, how do we know that they're about to do it? Okay, you can see somebody like with a knife or with a gun or something like that, or you see the man chasing after the woman with, so the way it's supposed to, this is the technical way. The technical way you have to determine it is you have to have,
ספק אם יעבור.
so, well, the thing is, technically you have witnesses who are going to be there, and you have to have an observer, right? So the observers have to call out to this potential murderer or the potential rapist and say, if you go ahead and do what you're about to do, then you'll be chayav mita. And if they continue anyway, then you don't have to wait for them to commit the act. You have to take them out. By the way, and also I just want to say, because this is a very complicated set of cases. The question is do you have to kill them, or is it enough if you can prevent them from doing the murder? Let's say you have a gun.
You can injure
You
them.
you could injure them, right? So let's say you have a gun, so like you shoot their leg, and then they fall over. Is that so? That presumably is enough. So, and then there's a question: what if you kill them when you could have just injured them? Maybe you're chayav. It gets a little complicated. I'm going to leave the complicated part aside, and we're going to take it in the simplest form. So what it means is at that moment the person is about to do something. They are in essence at that moment chayav mita, even though they have not yet done the act. So once I say that, then I can also say your case. Then I can also say, what if it's not what if it's not a murderer who's intent on murdering, but the case that the Gemara brings in a moment, which we're going to examine further today, where someone says to Ruvain, Ruvain, you kill Shimon, or I'll kill you. So at that moment, you have the same din as the person who has the intent to murder. That is, you've been put in a position where you where you could now, right now, commit a murder, and instead because you have your own volition and you have your own intent, you'll say, I don't want to be a murderer, and so you have to let yourself be killed instead. But you're in this category of a person who has not yet done an act who is in the position where you could, in a moment, do that act. That's also a little bit oversimplified, but I want to go through the Rashis here again. And we left off last time by going through the last Rashi, and we didn't get to explain it properly. Let's go through the Rashis here before we go on. So Paul, let's read Rashi. Ki kasher yakum.
כאשר יקום בנערה המוארסה כתיב.
Okay. מה למדנו?
מה למדנו מרוצח לנערה המוארסה? שהוא כמשפט הרוצח, כן משפט הדבר הזה. מה נערה המוארסה ניתן רשות למציל להצילה מבעילה זו בנפשו של בועל זה להורגו עד שלא בא עליה כדכתיב אין מושיע לה יש מושיע יושיענה בכל צידי תשועה. Okay,
so let's read this carefully. Right? מה למדנו מרוצח לנערה המוארסה שהוא כמשפט הרוצח? Rashi's just filling out the sentence here. What do we learn from the murderer in regards to the Nara Murasa, that the law, the judgment, the judgment of the person who's about to rape is the same as the judgment of a person who's about to murder. Right? That the inyan of the Nara Hamurasa is like the din of the Rotzeach, Ken Mishpat Hadavar Hazeh. Right? So this is true for the Nara Hamurasa. So what is the limud? Ma Nara Hamurasa nitan reshut lematzil lahatzila mibi'ilat zo. Just like the betrothed woman, the permission is given to the person who's saving her to save her from having relations, right? Being raped by this person, binafsho, to save her with the life of the rapist, right? Binafsho shaboel zeh lahorgo, right? To save her with by killing the potential rapist, ad shelo ba'ala, even before he has raped her. And how do I know that? So Rashi supplies this piece of information that isn't in the Gemara here. It's in the Gemara in Sanhedrin. Kidichtiv ein moshiala, right? So when the Torah tells us why she's ptura from mavet, it says at the end, in the next pasuk, it says, ein moshiala. There was no one to help her. So what's the implication? Hayesh moshia. What if there was somebody to help her? Yoshiana b'chotzidei chua. Then he should help her in all manner of help, in any way he could help her. So that's the basic limud. So Manara Musar nitan latzila bin nafsho, afrotzeach nitan lahatzilo bin nafsho. And then we go to the next step. Marotzeach ye'areg va'al ya'avor. So now we're coming from the other side, and we're going to say, just like a murderer is to be put to death, a potential murderer should be put to death rather than transgress. So also Nara Murasa Yehareg, the potential rapist, should be killed and not transgress. So how do I know that the Rotseach himself, that in the case of the Rotseach, that he's Yareg Vial Yavor? So that's what I learn from the next part of the Gemara. That's this next part here, where the Gemara says, Rotseach gufe menalan. So how do I know about the Rotseach himself that he's Yareg al Yavor? So Michael here read Rotseach gufe menalan.
Rotseach gufa minalan savrahi dehu atala kamea deraba amarli mari darai katli lefalni ve'ilo katilna lach amarle nitalech below tikto my chazit edama didech somek tafe dilma demaha dahu gavra somek tafe.
Okay, so this is the part that we read and finished off last time. So what does this all mean? Rotzeach gufe menalan svarahi. What does that mean, svarahi?
It's a logical deduction.
So what's the logical deduction? So then the Gemara brings an actual case. So what was the case? Hahu ata lekame de Rabba. What does that mean?
So a man came before Rava.
And Amarle, he said to him,
he said to Rava, the master of the place said to me, kill so and so, and if you don't, I'm going to kill you. And
okay, so wait, stop for a second. So this is what this person says to Rabba. He says, look, the Mare Durai, right, like the local mayor, whatever it is, he said to me, kill so-and-so, who is a Jew, or else I'm going to kill you. Right? Amar, so what's his question to Rabba?
So he's asking Rava, should he kill the man or let himself be killed?
Right. So what does Rabba say to him?
So Rava answers, you should let yourself be killed and not kill.
And why? What's his reason?
He says, and what do you see that your blood is redder than his? Perhaps his blood is redder than yours.
Right. So it's some kind of a metaphor. What does it mean that your blood is that somebody's blood is more red than somebody else's blood?
It usually means like, is it's more valuable? He's saying you're not worth more than them. You don't know.
Okay. So now, Paul, last time we looked here at Rashi, and this is where I think I did this kind of quickly. So let's do this a little more carefully. Paul, if you're still with us. Uh-oh. Yeah, you're still here? So
Yes, I'm here.
So read this Rashi.
It's getting very hot. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and here in this basement it's very cold, so it should even
And
out.
I sent you some heat over the internet.
So here, read this
Is
Rashi.
it cold in the Washington?
Yeah, it's cold here. I think today, I don't know it's about what now it's about 13 degrees. So
Celsius.
yeah, Celsius, yeah. Yeah. It's a funny thing, when for decades after I made Aliyah, I was able to switch to the metric system for everything except for temperature. And then about 5 years ago, I forced myself to start thinking in Celsius. And now it's very hard for me to think in Fahrenheit. So I just leave everything in Celsius.
Indeed, it's very hard.
What's that? Oh. So let's read this Rashi. My chazit dama didach sumak tfei. Rashi says,
Who has got to read? Myself?
It's you.
Me.
You're up.
My chazit dama גידך סומק טפי.
Tfei.
כלומר, מהי דעתך,
My datech,
מהי דעתך
lemishrei,
למשרי מילתא משום,
mishum nekudatayim, ve,
וחי בהם ולא שימות בהם. טעמו של דבר לפי שחביבה נפשן של ישראל לפני המקום יותר מן המצוות. אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא, תבטל המצווה ויחיה זה. כן. אבל עכשיו שיש כאן ישראל נהרג והמצווה בטלה, למה ייטב בעיני המקום לעבור על מצוותו? למה יהיה דמך חביב עליו יותר מדם חבריך ישראל?
Okay. Rashi here is also, this Perush of Rashi is drawn from the Gemara in Sanhedrin, where I told you the much longer sugya is in the Gemara in Sanhedrin. And this drasha, B'chai Bahem, is brought there in this context. So what is Rashi saying? Rabbah says to this person who has this dilemma, he was given this ultimatum to kill or be killed. What do you see that your blood is redder? Klomar, that is to say, Mai da'atech, what is your thinking? Lemishrei milta, the mishrei milta is lahatir hadavar, right? To make this thing permissible, to kill. Maybe you're thinking like this, mishum, because there's a pasuk that says, v'chai bahem, v'lo sheyamut bahem. We'll look at that pasuk in a moment. But you're probably familiar with the drasha. So that's the drasha. V'chai bahem, the Torah is given to you to live by and not to die by. So now Rashi is going to explain what's the logic behind that. Ta'amos shel davar. So the reasoning behind this drasha is lefi shechaviva nafshan shel Yisrael ifnei hamakom yoter min mitzvot. The Kadosh Baruch Hu loves the lives of Israel more than the mitzvot. In other words, Hashem gave us the mitzvot. Of course, He loves the mitzvot. He loves the Torah. He also loves Bnei Israel. So the lives of Bnei Israel are more dear to Him than the mitzvot. And so therefore, the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, Tevatel ha-mitzvah v'yichyeh, right? So avoid this mitzvah, in other words, in specific circumstances. Hashem is saying, don't do the mitzvah in order that you can live, in order that this one, whoever it is, should live. What's the problem with our so let's stop here. So that Rashi's saying, Rabbah is saying to this fellow, maybe you're using this logic, right? So according to this logic, if I stop right here, then I would say you're in a position that if you don't kill Ploni, that you'll be put to death. So maybe you'll say V'chai Bahem is going to be applicable to me, right? In other words, Hashem is going to say, you might think Hashem is saying, you're allowed to kill this person because otherwise you'll die, and it's more important to me, the Kadosh Baruch Hu, that you live than die. What's the problem?
This is true for both sides.
It's true for, you mean for both the killer and the potential victim?
Yeah, if the situation is that somebody has to die, so I don't know, does the Kadosh Baruch Hu prefer the one over the other?
So that's the hemshech of Rashi. So that's exactly the point. So in other words, let's stop here. So let's say, when do we usually think it's applicable to say v'chai bahem v'lo sheyamut bahem? Let's say It's let's say somebody is about to die, but if you can get on Shabbat, but if you get them to the hospital, you get them to the emergency room for a blood transfusion, they are more likely to live. So there we say you push aside the Shabbat in order that this person should live. So for him, at that moment, it's as if the Kadosh Baruch Hu is saying to him, I'd rather you live than keep my mitzvah. Because if you keep my mitzvah now, you're going to die. And what good does that do me? I want you to live. Aval achshav, but here, sheyesh kan Yisrael neherag. But here, if if Reuven kills Shimon, so Shimon is also a Jew, and then he'll die. The mitzvah betela, and then the mitzvah of not murdering him is going to be butal. Lami yitav beinei hamakom lavor al mitzvato. Then why would Hashem? Why would it be good in the eyes of Kadosh Baruch Hu for this particular mitzvah to be transgressed? Because a Jew is going to die. It's not like the case that we said a minute ago of Pikuach Nefesh on Shabbat. Here, if Kadosh Baruch Hu, as it were, tells Reuven it's okay to go ahead and kill Shimon, then it doesn't fit into the overall logic because Hashem wants Jews to live in order that they can do mitzvot on another day. But here, if he lets Reuven kill Shimon, Shimon's going to die. And then Lami Yadamech Chaviv Alav Yoter Midam Chavirecha Yisrael. What makes you think that your blood, that your life is more dear to the Kadosh Baruch Hu than the person that you're about to kill? And since you can't argue that, you can't say my life, that Kadosh Baruch Hu likes me more than somebody else. And if you go ahead and do this, you will be mevatel the mitzvah and end up with a dead Jew. You'll end up with somebody dying. So then there is no heter, because you're not any better than the person that you're going to die, that you're going to kill. And the other thing that we pointed out here is that in this case that comes before Rabbah, this Reuven is being asked to kill the Yadayim. In other words, he has to actively go out and kill. So so he has a choice. Either he actively goes and kills, or he will passively be killed. So in that case, we say, you're not better than the person that you might kill, and so you have to allow yourself to be killed.
Shell,
Yeah.
from a modern point of view, a liberal point of view, this is a supremacistic expression to speak only about Israel instead of just the Ben Adam.
Yes, you're right. And I was
And
afraid
in
I was afraid you'd bring that
original,
up.
yes, the original pasuk doesn't say Israel. It says just says a person.
Well, it says Re'ehu.
נכון? כל ראה בעולם.
No, so I'll digress on this just for a moment. And this does get into a very I don't know, but there is it's contentious. There are different opinions about this.
I know.
But
I have my opinion.
no, you're for sure you're allowed to have your opinion. There are also different girsas in the Rambam about this, for example, and some of it we're going to look at. The
I know it's a digression, but okay.
No. You know what? It's okay because I came into this part of the sugya thinking that on the one hand, we could spend literally the next couple of months trying to go through the sugya in Sanhedrin, which would definitely be worthwhile. It's a very ekroni sugya. It's a really, really important sugya, and digs deep into some really basic philosophy that we as Jews, need to be aware of. Um, I decided instead of doing the whole sugya there, that we're going to do this here, and we're going to look at how the Rambam deals with these questions in Hilchot Yisodei HaTorah, which I think we're going to start to look at today before we finish. But the point is, so wait, about the question of Yisrael or not Yisrael, this is a very important point. Look, I'm also surprised that nobody mentioned this earlier, but since you're bringing this up, let's say this also. The din that's being brought that we're learning about Gilui Arayot is specifically about Nara Hamurasa, but not about Stam Nara. What if it's a Nara Betula that's not Murasa? What if she's not betrothed? The Torah
I
doesn't
think you
talk
told the
about.
last time I asked that question, but you said that
Ah,
in this time she has got to get married with Anas, with
yeah. So right. So that ends. That gets into a different set of halachot in the Torah. But also the din mavet. In other words, the idea that there would be a din mavet either for the rapist or for the nara murasa is specifically because she is murasa. If she was not murasa, then there isn't a din mavet. But there are other possible dinim. If she was raped or if she was seduced, right? The nara mafuta or the nara anusa, right? So that gets into a different set of halachot. But nonetheless, um, in terms of the re'ehu, look, the way Chazal understood the word re'ah in this context and basically throughout the Torah is why does it say like v'ahavta l're'echa kamocha? It doesn't say v'ahavta l'kol adam kamocha. So re'echa is somebody that it implies a kirva, it implies some kind of closeness. And so Chazal understood that to mean that's Bnei Israel. And on this, there's a machloket in the Yerushalmi I think it's in the Yerushalmi and the Darim, where the first part because they made it into a song like Amar Rabbi Akiva v'ahavta yirecha kamocha zeh klal gadol b'Torah. And why is it a klal gadol b'Torah? Because it tells you that this is essentially the basis of all the mitzvot ben adam l'chavero. But then I think it's Ben Azai. I should have brought this up. But Ben Azai says, "El toldot Adam ze klal yoter gadol," where the Torah, where the Torah talks, talks about the creation of man. That's an even bigger klal because that includes all of mankind, and that's the tension that you're bringing up. Is the Torah for these sets of halachot? Is the Torah concerned that Jews are only concerned with Jews, or do they have to be concerned for these intents and purposes for all people? Similarly, in the famous Mishnah in Sanhedrin, wait a second. Let's
by Chai Bahem, it's even more relevant because if a guy is suffering and he may die, and it's Shabbat, and I think you are allowed to drive him to hospital. No,
say that again. Who are you allowed to drive to the hospital? Oh,
a
you mean
guy.
if it's a goy? So,
No, I think the
uh,
ambulance takes everybody. They don't ask if you are an Arab or Christian or I don't
I'll
know,
tell you,
or a Jew.
according to most halachic opinion, the heter for driving the non-Jew on Shabbat is not because min hadin you have to save him, but mishum eva. because you're worried that if you don't do this for the non-Jew, that there will be repercussions for the Jews. There's a story I saw once on the internet somewhere, uh, where a non-Jewish colleague of Rav Shaul Lieberman, right? I've quoted him before, right? One of the great Gedolim of the last century. Somebody, a non-Jewish scholar, asked him about this, and he said, "So, is it true that you wouldn't save a non-Jew on, like somebody's life on Shabbat?" And he said, no, I would. And then later on, like one of his Talmidim that was there, and he heard the whole thing. He says, "Is that true what you said?" He said, "I answered him Mishum Eva." The answer I gave him was under the rubric, under the din of Eva, not because min hadin I would have to save him. But here, this is the Breita. It's Yerushalmi and Nedarim. The pasuk says, "Zeh sefer toldot Adam b'yom baro Elokim Adam b'dmut Elokim asa oto." So the Yerushalmi says, Tanya, Rabbi Kiva omer v'ahavta yirecha kamocha kal gadol b'Torah. Ben Azai omer, "Zeh sefer toldot Adam kal gadol mizeh." This is a greater klal. So you see, there's a long explanation here by the Torah Tamima, but I'm not going to go. I'm not going to do that right now. You're all welcome to look at it. It's the beginning of Parakeh and Breshit. You can look at the Torah Tamima on the first pasuk. But the other thing I wanted to show you in this context was in the Mishnah in Sanhedrin. Right. Also, I'm sorry. Sanhedrin. No, it's not the 10th chapter. No, it's earlier. I'm thinking of something else. I think it's in Parak Daled. Uh,
By the way, I don't believe that Lieberman, the answer he gave is a technical answer, but as a person, he would take the goy anyway.
no, he would. That's the point. He would take, according to the story, what it meant is, of course, he would take the goy, but not because min hadin that not min hadin to save the life of the goy, but mishum eva he saves the life of the goy. That was the
No, but
point.
he would take him anyway,
Exactly.
without this excuse.
No, that I don't know. You can say that according to the testimony of his Talmud, that's what he said. That his answer was
It's
bichal
because he
mishum
was
eva.
looking for an halachic
Yeah, so I can't
explanation of what he did, but it's technical. It
that
doesn't.
Shaul Lieberman was the ish halacha lemofet, right? So I don't.
בסדר.
So I wouldn't. I
גם
wouldn't
היה
just.
בן אמריקאי, אז זה לא...
I wouldn't describe. I wouldn't ascribe to him your feel. I don't project on him your feelings. That's what he said. This is how it's brought down. Wait, but I can't remember now where this is. It's the Mishnah, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. That it's the Mishnah where it says that Kol Hamabed Nefesh Achat, right? If you kill somebody, it's as if you've killed the entire universe. And there are two girsaot there. One of them is Kol Hamabed Nefesh Achat Mi Yisrael, and the other was Kol Hamabed Nefesh Achat. So I'll find the Mishnah later. I'll send it to you in the notes with the video because we're going to have to go in a minute. But so that there is a tension, and there's also, if you look in Hilchot Rotzeach of the Rambam, you'll also see different girsaot. I think it's at the very beginning of Hilchot Rotzeach. Rotzeach. Okay, do you see this? This is the Rambam, the very beginning of Hilchot Rotzeach, right? Rotzeach Shmirat Nefesh. Rambam says, Perak Aleph, Halacha of Kol Horeg Nefesh Adam Mi Yisrael Over Below Ta'aseh. But here, let's click here, and in one of the Tfusim it says Ben Adam. In other words, Kol Horeg Nefesh Ben Adam. And the comment is Shinui Me'emata Tzensura. In other words, in the original Rambam, it says Me Yisrael. But in the censored edition, they just made it anyone. Now, again, these we're going into, like, this is touching on very, very big subjects, which we're not going to go into. We're not going to go into in this class. But because I have to stop in the next few minutes, I think what I would like to do to help us understand what we're learning now, I do want to see how the Rambam understood this. And so I have another 4 minutes. So I'm going to do the reading, but next time I want to go through these halachot. Everybody is welcome to look in the Rambam. It's in Sefer Mada. It's the first of the Sparim of the Rambam in Hilchot Yisodei HaTorah. Hilchot Yisodei HaTorah, the Rambam lays out. This is in a way, Hilchot Yisodei HaTorah is the intersection between halacha and philosophy, and like the subject that we're talking about now. But it also, the Rambam goes into there in what it means to believe in Hashem, what is Ahavat Hashem, what is Yirat Hashem, also what is Chilul Hashem, and here, what is Kiddush Hashem. It also goes into the Achot of Isur Mechikat Hashem. There's a lot of things in there that the Rambam brings together under the title of Yesodei Torah. So he says as follows: Kol Beit Yisrael mitzuvin al Kiddush Hashem Hagadol Hazeh. All right, because he's laid out for us before this what this concept of God. Right? He's laid out the concept of God and our relationship to God, and now he says that all of Israel is commanded with the sanctification of this great name, the name of Hashem. V'shenemar v'nikdashti betoch b'nei Yisrael. We're also warned against violating, right? That is the opposite of sanctification. Shenamar v'lo tichalalu et shem kodshi. Ketzad. So how does that work in practice? Etza mitbateh. Ketzad. B'shah she'amod goy. V'anos et Yisrael avor al achat mikol mitzvot ha'amurot b'Torah. O yahargenu. Ya'avor v'lo yehareg. At the time when a non-Jew comes and forces the Jew to transgress any one of the mitzvot that is said in the Torah, or he will kill him. You should transgress. That person should transgress and not be killed. Shenamar b'mitzvot asher yaseh otam adam b'chai b'hem v'lo sheyamut b'hem. V'im meit v'lo avar. And if you do in fact let yourself be killed, and rather than transgress, harei zeh mitchayev b'nafsho. You actually were liable to capital punishment, right? You're liable to be punished with your own life, which would have implications for the afterlife. Bamed dvarim amurim. So when do we say that if you were yahareg velo avar in a mitzvah that you in all of the mitzvot, right? You're supposed to be over velo yahareg. When do we say that? Bishar mitzvot, for the other mitzvot, chutz me'avodah zarah v'gilui arayot u'shvichut damim. Aval shalosh averot elu, im yomar lo avor achat mehem o tehareg, yahareg v'al yavor. I'm going to stop. Well, actually, we'll finish this halacha and then I'll stop. But medvarim amurim. And so when do we say that? When do we say that yahareg v'al yavor for those three mitzvot? Bisman shagoy mitkaven laha'anat atzmo. When the goy is doing it for his own pleasure. Kagon she'ansu livnot anaso livnot lo beito b'Shabbat. He's forcing him to build his house on Shabbat. O vashelo tavshilo, or to the Med Dvarim Amurim actually goes back earlier, right? To all the mitzvot. So when do we say Lavor v'al yehareg? If the goy is making you be over for his own benefit. So he's telling you, you have to finish building my house on Shabbat, or you have to cook me something on Shabbat. Oh, anas isha leva'ala. If his kavanah is just to make him be over on a mitzvah, in other words, there's the whole intent of the goy is to make you be over on a mitzvah. So if it was just between you and the goy, and there wasn't a minion of Jews around to see, it was something in private, then Yavor ve'al yareg. Then you should also still be over. You should cook his meal on Shabbat or whatever, even if you know that he's doing it because he knows for you he's making you do an aveira. But if he's forcing you to do this in public, meaning in front of 10 other Jews, and he's doing it in order to show that he wants you to violate the Torah in public, then yahareg v'lo yavor. Then you should allow yourself to be killed rather than to be over. Even if his kavanah is only to make you be over on other mitzvot other than shvichut damim, gilu arayot v'avodah zarah. Because why? Because then, if he's doing it in order to make you be over on the mitzvah, bifarhesia, in a public way, then if you're over, that's a chilul Hashem. And the Torah commands us not to be Mechalel Shem Hashem. I'm going to stop here. So as you see, it starts to get complicated, but I want to go through this whole parak. So we'll pick this up.
But this is Rambam's opinion. It's probably not the opinion of in the Gemara.
No, זה לא נכון, ממש לא נכון מה שאתה אמרת. Just the Rambam's opinion. Everything that the Rambam wrote is based on his understanding of the Gemara and the Gaonim that came before him. It's not just his opinion as a philosopher. Is that kol mivusas on everything that's in the Gemara. All of this is based.
Mentions a minyan.
Yes. That's from the Gemara. It's not the Rambam making that up. This is from the
Okay.
Gemara.
Okay.
No, no, no. That's why we have sources for the Rambam. I mean, that's what this is why people wrote these sources for the Rambam. But like I say, the Rambam is distilling very difficult sugyot. But this, what he says here, is betzem muskam. Right? This is not just the Rambam's opinion. Everybody basically agrees with this aspect of the Rambam. Other things, of course, there's always machloket. But that's it. I got to go today. Bezrat Hashem, we'll see you next week, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Good night.